Good morning, everybody. It's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. Well, today we're going to make some strawberry syrup. I'm still working through all that strawberry juice that I got. And so we're going to make strawberry syrup to use on pancakes or waffles or ice cream. This won't have any strawberry bits in it at all. It'll just be syrup. And so I would probably like that better on ice cream because I'm not the one that likes the chunks, remember. So anyway, let's get started. It's a really easy recipe. All it has is strawberry juice and sugar, and the recipe comes together. This is a USDA recipe. It's a simple recipe, and it's safe for canning. And so we're going to do that. I'll turn the camera around, and we'll get started on getting the strawberry syrup made. Once again, guys, we're going to be using our steam canner this morning, and when we get the syrup bottled up, we're going to be steam canning it at 10 minutes. You would do the same if you were hot water bath canning this. It would be 10 minutes in the hot water bath canner. So let's go ahead and get started. My jars are in there so that they'll be nice and hot and ready to go when I put that hot syrup in there. I like to have all the temperatures the same so we have no issues with no thermal issues, thermal shock issues that would cause the jars to break. So let's get started with the recipe. This is a USDA recipe from their website, and I am going to simply add 5 cups of juice, and I've already got 4 cups in the pot, and I'm going to add this last cup in there. And this is going to sound like a lot of sugar, but remember, this is a syrup. And so I'm going to add 6 3/4 cups of sugar very carefully to the pot. And a little bit more. Now I've got the sugar and the juice added to the pot, and I'm just going to begin to cook this, and it's going to the temperature's going to rise, and it's going to look a whole lot like what it looked like when we made jelly. And so I'm going to cook this down, and it'll come to a full rolling boil. And I'll show you the next process. Well, it's beginning to thicken up some, and it's starting to trace. What I mean by that is when I go through the pan with my whisk, it kind of makes a little bit of a trail behind me. So it's starting to thicken up some, and that's exciting because then you know that your process is working. The next step is letting it boil, and it's not too far from that. We're starting to get a few little bubbles in there. You can, I hope you guys can see it. Let me move my spoon. I'm just getting a few little tiny bubbles right now in there. But when it has to come to a full boil, remember we discussed that the other day when we made jelly, a full boil, you know, not one that when you stick your spatula or spoon in and begin to stir that you stir it down, but a full roll. Then you're going to time this for a minute. That's just like the jelly. If it begins to foam up, make sure that you pull it off of the fire for a second and let it go back down, because it will boil over and you'll have a horrible mess. You just, you know, I cannot I don't want that to happen. I know that that would be a terrible, terrible mess all over your burners and in all the little nooks and crannies. And we're busy people, right? And we don't have time to chase after unnecessary messes. So if you see it's going to go over on you, get it off that fire. That's the quickest thing, is to move it off so that it'll fall. Okay, we're at a full rolling boil. Got to get my timer set. Now you see, this is starting to rise up, and I've got to keep a watch on it. And it's going pretty quick with this. I think I'm going to move it off just a little bit and let it go down a little, so I don't have a mess. Now see, it's went down some, and I'm going to pull it back over. May turn my fire down just a little bit more, but you want to maintain you know, you want to keep it going at a rolling boil. And you're going to stir constantly because it'll scorch and then it won't be good for anything. Okay, turn the timer off, turn the fire off. It smells good. And it goes, you can see how quickly it goes back down. Now I can tell you it's thin right now. Thin as in about what it feels like when you're making jelly, that consistency. Now this is not going to set up like jelly because we didn't add any pectin. It has natural pectin in it, but we didn't add pectin or Dutch gel to it to thicken it even more. We just wanted it a pourable consistency. And so running my whisk through here, I can tell that that it's going to set up and be just fine to pour over. You know, it's not going to be a jelly and it's not going to be water. It's going to be just right, just like Goldilocks. Just right. Now I was kind of concerned there for a little bit that I was going to have a whole lot of foam, and you don't want to put that in your jar. You want, it won't hurt you, it won't make you sick. It just doesn't make a really good presentation in your jar if you're looking for nice and pretty. But I believe that we're going to be good on that. Might be just a little bit. I'm going to stir just a little bit more and see if I'm thinking that we need to take some of the foam off. And you can see now it's molten hot. It would still burn you incredibly bad, but it's not going to boil over. It's all of that has come to a halt. And now I'm going to decide whether or not I need to take some of the foam off of there. I'm going to let it set for just a second without stirring it and see. We'll see what we think. Now you can see in here some of the little streaks, and that's what we're meaning by foam. And sometimes it's really foamy and white on the top. See this on the top? It might be kind of hard with that glare from my stove light. But see this little white that's coming off on my spoon? You want to take that off. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay. I have a little bowl here, and I've got a wet paper towel on the top of it, and it just makes for a cleaner, easier cleanup at the end, because I can take this little paper towel out and throw it away. And then I don't have a big sticky mess in my bowl that's hard to get out. So I'm going to, if you'll pardon my hand, I'm going to go through here, and I'm just going to try to remove as much of this foam as I possibly can. And you'll have a little bit of syrup in there, but my goal is to get the foam out. And I'm going to do that. I got to work kind of fast, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll bring you guys back when I get this done. Okay guys, this is the amount of foam that I was able to get off of there. It wasn't bad. I've had jellies before that I really had to take a lot off, but that's not too bad. I would say maybe a tablespoon altogether. And I simply just take my spoon and I just go along the pan and I pull it over gently to the side. Now you don't want to stir it in, and I don't scrape the sides of the pan either, you know, this, but I just pull it to the side, and any of the really foamy stuff I try to get off. Now I won't say that. Let me see if I got any. Yep, I do. I've got a little bit more that has come together. Oh, my head's not in this picture, but I have to look inside the pot. So you don't want to go high up on the pan and scrape off stuff that's up on the sides where it boiled up. You don't want to put that in your syrup. When you're candy making, you don't want to do that because you'll get sugar crystals in your candy. And you don't want to do that here. So I was able to get a little bit more out of there. And so now we're ready to jar up this syrup. Now pardon me for just a moment. I got to wash my hands. Sticky is one thing I cannot stand. So we're ready to jar up this syrup. Now I'm going to reach over here in my steam canner and get out one of my jars. I'll actually get out two so I have something to put the funnel in, canning funnel. And I'll reach over here, and they're nice and hot. And we'll get this first one jarred up for you. And I'm going to put the funnel on here. Now I've got my lids over here soaking in this water. Not soaking, but you know what I mean. They're in hot water. I've got all my canning utensils ready right here. Got water, wet paper towel to wash the rims because these are going to be sticky, and you for sure want to make sure that the rims are nice and clean. Okay, so let's get started here. And remember guys, this is so very hot, and you need to be very careful that you don't get burned. And try to keep back, but keep your hands back. Okay, so I'm going to tilt this so I don't make a big mess. If you get some of that foam in your jar after they're canned and they begin to cool off, that foam will go to the top of your jar. Okay, gonna leave a 1/2 inch headspace. You always want to make sure that you debubble. Now, I have this, and it's a debubbler and a magnet to get the lids out of the hot water at the same time. And I also have my trusty chopstick here. Now I'm going to use the chopstick to debubble, and I'm going to use this to get the lids out of the hot water, and not use this one to debubble today. The reason for that is this is a sticky solution, and I don't want to, you know, be using both sides of it and get all messy and nasty with that sticky stuff. I can stand all kinds of things on my hand, all kinds of barnyard mess and all that kind of stuff, but I cannot stand to be sticky. It just drives me nuts. So anytime that I have a situation like this, I use both tools. And this is just a chopstick that has been finished. You know how you get the ones at the Chinese restaurant, and they're kind of splintery, and I don't like those, but this one is smooth, and that's what I use it for. So what I'll do here is I'll just go in here. I know this is a liquid, but I still go ahead and make sure that I debubble just as a precaution, just to make sure that I don't have anything, any kind of bubbles. And then I'm going to wipe the rim right here, wipe this, because I want to make sure that I don't have any sticky residue. Now your jars are hot, remember that. I'm kind of, okay, and it's real good and clean. And I'm going to get a lid out, get it covered, get a ring, and I'm going to put it over in my steam canner, and get out another jar, and I'll do the same process over again. Now this has little bubbles where I poured that juice in there. I don't know. Oh, my hand's in the way. I'm sorry. There's little bubbles where I poured the syrup in there. And they're here at the top. So what I'm doing is making sure that there's no bubbles in the jars whatsoever. But they come to the surface and then they break. So next step is to get that jar lid nice and clean and make sure it's not sticky at all. And you want to get that next lid. Fingertip tight and into the canner. Okay, when I get these all done, I'm going to put the lid on the steam canner and bring it up to the temperature that's required for my altitude below 10,000, and I'm going to process it for 10 minutes. Now, in the steam can, pardon me, you always want to know your recipe, what your altitude is where you live, and the amount of time for your altitude. For me, on this recipe, I'm below 10,000 feet. I mean, below 1,000 feet. And so it's 10 minutes. But you may live somewhere where there's another 5 minutes added, 15 minutes. So just know what your altitude is. And it's easy to find. You just look it up on the internet. Type in your location, and it should bring up the information for your, longitude, latitude, all that. And also tell you what your altitude is. Well, I've got the strawberry syrup out of the canner, and I got 6 half pints and 1 pint of syrup, and then I have this jar that will go in the refrigerator. I didn't even put it in the canner. Now you can see right now that it looks really loose, but it does sheet off the spoon, not like jelly, but enough that you would consider it syrup. It traces on the back of a spoon. And as this cools, this will set up and it'll be a delicious, delicious strawberry syrup. So there you have it, guys. Strawberry syrup. It's going to taste good this winter on toast. I guess you could put it on toast, but pancakes or waffles, French toast. Cheyenne loves French toast, and it's going to be delicious. Just one more way to look well to the ways of your household. Well, we've come to an end of another video, and this is Josie. I love you guys, and until next time, we're gone.